Iran now openly taunts Arab governments, warning that their deep partnership with the United States has brought destruction right to their own doorstep. The US presence doesn't bring security, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi scoffs, openly scorning Arab leaders for clinging to American protection. American military bases housed across the Middle East have reportedly suffered damage running into the billions of dollars in the Iran war. From day one of the conflict, Washington's Arab allies found themselves on the front line of Iran's missile onslaught. All of this is fueling questions about whether we are witnessing the slow end of US influence in the Middle East, as Arab states quietly begin leaning toward what they see as safer alternatives. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has now made a startling claim about Arab countries that host US bases, arguing that these governments have effectively invited danger onto their own soil by allowing Washington to use their territory in this war. Araghchi flatly stated that the US military presence in the Middle East does not bring real security to its hosts, according to reports. He declared that US forces only generate insecurity and division across the region, deepening rifts between neighbors and making Arab states more vulnerable to conflict rather than genuinely protected. Araghchi made these remarks on April 26 during a high-profile meeting with Oman Sultan, according to Iranian media, using Muscat's diplomatic stage to send a pointed message to every Arab capital hosting American troops. Additionally, he urged Arab nations to fundamentally revise their security policies, telling them it is time to rethink dependence on American power and consider more regional, homegrown frameworks instead. Araghchi argued that a collective regional approach among neighboring states could guarantee security in the Gulf without the need for US forces, framing Iran as a partner in a purely regional security architecture. During the meeting, he also briefed the Sultan on the latest developments in the Gulf, outlining Iran's view of the conflict, the risks surrounding Hormuz, and what Tehran believes is needed to de-escalate. Araghchi said, and I quote, "Important discussions on bilateral matters and regional developments. As only Hormuz littoral states, our focus included ways to ensure safe transit that is to benefit of all dear neighbors and the world. Our neighbors are our priority." End quote. Araghchi's remarks landed just as a major US media report revealed the full extent of the damage to American bases across the Gulf, underscoring his warning that hosting US forces now carries an enormous and growing cost. NBC News reports that US bases and equipment across the Persian Gulf sustained extensive damage from Iranian missiles and drones, beyond early official descriptions. Some US officials now privately say the true extent of the damage is far greater than what has been publicly claimed in press conferences and briefings. Analysts at AEI and other think tanks estimate that more than $5 billion will be needed just to repair damaged infrastructure, before counting lost aircraft or munitions. Remember, after the February 28 opening blows, Iran launched retaliation across 7 Arab countries, striking dozens of military and support sites linked to the US presence. Those attacks hit US command centers, key runways, aircraft hangars, and even satellite communication systems that knit regional operations together. In one of the most striking incidents, an Iranian F-5 fighter jet managed to bomb Camp Buthering in Kuwait despite active air defenses, breaching what was thought to be a secure airspace. NBC notes this was the first time in years that a hostile fixed-wing aircraft had successfully struck a US base, highlighting a rare but serious gap in protection. Bases hosting US forces in Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia all recorded significant damage from missiles, drones, or debris. In Bahrain, the headquarters of the US Navy's Fifth Fleet, the nerve center of regional maritime operations, was badly hit, forcing temporary shifts in command functions. At Kuwait's Ali Al Salem Air Base, multiple hangars and storage warehouses took direct or near-direct hits, damaging aircraft shelters and logistics hubs. In northern Iraq, a US-linked munition storage site near Erbil was damaged, raising concerns about blast risks and forcing ammunition to be moved or secured. A runway at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar was reportedly destroyed, temporarily limiting sortie rates and underlining how vulnerable even flagship facilities can be under sustained fire. Oil and gas infrastructure in several Arab states suffered major damage during the conflict, including critical facilities in the Gulf that were hit or disrupted. The IMF has said recovery timelines in the Gulf will vary by country depending on geography and how quickly exports can resume, indicating that some energy systems may face a prolonged return to normal operations. Ras Laffan, the complex responsible for about 93% of Qatar's LNG output, has been shut since early March according to reports about the disruption at the site. An estimated 3 to 5 years are reportedly needed to restore Ras Laffan to full capacity, according to reports citing damage assessments after the strikes on Qatar's key LNG complex. In Bahrain, several homes were damaged in Sitra. Industrial sites, including aluminium-related facilities, were also reportedly targeted. At least 2 civilians were killed and 2 others were injured. Saudi Arabia faced repeated attacks on Riyadh and the eastern province. Reports said 2 civilians were killed. 1 U.S. service member also died. At least 12 American soldiers were wounded during the attacks. Qatar came under repeated attacks on key sites and important oil and gas infrastructure. 4 Qatari servicemen and 3 Turkish nationals were reported killed. Some of the casualties linked to a helicopter crash during the conflict period. In the United Arab Emirates, fires and visible damage were reported in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Civilian infrastructure, airports, ports, and industrial locations were affected. Petrochemical and aluminium-linked facilities were also reportedly attacked. Deaths included 9 civilians and 2 military personnel. In Jordan, falling debris caused material damage. 1 American soldier was reported injured. A strike was also reported on a US-related site in eastern Jordan. On April 14th, Chinese President Xi Jinping called for stronger ties between China and Arab states during a conversation with Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. She made those remarks while speaking with the Abu Dhabi Crown Prince, underscoring Beijing's effort to deepen its regional relationships at a moment of heightened instability.
Historic changes are unfolding in ways never seen before. Human society faces a choice between peace and war, unity or confrontation. We must strengthen coordination, enhance cooperation, and build a more solid, resilient, and dynamic China-Arab comprehensive strategic partnership.
Earlier, China had criticized Trump's maritime blockade move after the Islamabad peace talks failed, reflecting Beijing's opposition to further escalation in the Gulf. After the announcement of a U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, China indicated that it aligns with Iran's position on the issue. Beijing also called on President Donald Trump to remain composed and exercise restraint following the collapse of recent talks with Iran. On April 13th, China's foreign ministry stated that maintaining safety and stability in the Strait of Hormuz should be treated as a priority. Chinese officials further emphasized that secure passage through the strait is essential to avoid disruptions affecting other nations and global trade. China also stated that it expects both the United States and Iran to adhere to the terms of the 2-week ceasefire arrangement. The US is reportedly increasing its military presence at Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE as tensions with Iran remain elevated and diplomacy stays uncertain. There appears to be a heavier deployment pattern involving fighter aircraft, transport jets and aerial refueling tankers across the regional US posture, with Al Dhafra remaining a key hub in the Gulf. Clash reports said on April 25th, citing Egiosint, that the build-up at Al Dhafra was rising, adding to wider reporting about fresh US force movements in the region. Clash reports said, and I quote, "The US appears to be increasing its military presence at Al Dhafra Air Base, UAE. About 12 F/A-18 fighter jets have been deployed, alongside at least 7 aerial refueling tankers and AC-17 cargo aircraft." Unquote. The disclosure came amid uncertainty over the peace talks and after Iran's recent naval seizures further sharpened the maritime standoff in and around the Strait of Hormuz. The conflict involving the United States and Israel against Iran may have had unintended consequences for American interests in the Gulf region. A prominent academic from the United Arab Emirates has raised concerns regarding the continued presence of U.S. military forces in the area. These observations were shared by UAE scholar Abdulkalek Abdullah during an interview with Reuters. He suggested that American military installations in the UAE are increasingly being viewed as a liability rather than a strategic advantage. The academic also argued that it may be time to consider closing U.S. bases operating within the region. According to Abdullah, recent events have demonstrated that the UAE is capable of ensuring its own defense without external military support. It is notable that the UAE currently hosts approximately 3,500 US personnel, including operations at Al Dhafra Air Base. The Abu Dhabi scholar said, and I quote, "The UAE no longer needs America to defend it, as it has proven during the Iranian aggression that it is capable of defending itself with distinction. What the UAE needs is to acquire only the best and latest weapons that America has. Therefore, it is time to think about closing the American bases, as they are a burden and not a strategic asset." End quote. According to reports, the UAE has been discussing ways to secure a financial backstop from the United States to help shield its economy from further turbulence. These developments were reported by the Wall Street Journal, which cited high-level meetings between Emirati and American officials as the source. During those talks, Emirati officials raised the idea of establishing a currency swap line with the United States as part of a broader protection plan. If approved, such a facility would allow the UAE central bank to access US dollars in moments of extreme market stress, when funding can suddenly dry up. With this mechanism in place, the UAE could support its own currency or bolster its foreign reserves using US dollars drawn from the swap line. The Wall Street Journal says the UAE is seeking this kind of security in case the war with Iran deepens financial stress on Abu Dhabi's economy. At the same time, officials have stressed that these discussions are still preliminary and that no formal swap line request has been submitted yet. Emirati officials have also hinted at switching to alternative currencies, according to the Wall Street Journal's account of the talks. If access to US dollars becomes constrained or too politically costly, the country may feel forced to switch part of its trade into other currencies. In that scenario, the UAE could begin conducting some of its oil trade and other major transactions in Chinese yuan as well. Even a partial shift would chip away at the US dollar's dominance in global oil markets, at least temporarily. This move would also dovetail neatly with China's broader push to internationalize the yuan and expand its role in global finance.